My name is Melanie Cross. I'm 38 years old. I was born into a family that treated holidays like stage productions. Every Thanksgiving, every Christmas curated performances of harmony, where secrets dressed up in cashmere and tension was baked right into the pie. I was the eldest daughter, which in my family meant I was less a child, and more an unpaid intern, always organizing, fixing, smoothing things over, therapist, caterer, banker, ghost. If I'm honest, I spent years confusing usefulness with love. But betrayal has a way of sharpening the air, like frost against your skin, and this past Thanksgiving, the air turned blade sharp. The message came out of nowhere. A cheerful group chat ping from my aunt. "Can't wait to see everyone next week," I responded casually. "Same here, looking forward to it." It should have ended there. Instead, hours passed and I got a separate message from my cousin. "Wait, are you actually coming? Your parents told everyone you weren't invited this year." My stomach dropped. The kind of drop that tells you the betrayal had already happened long before you found it. I called my mother hoping there was some mistake, but she didn't even deny it. "We're keeping it small this year," she said lightly. "Just immediate family." I blinked. I am immediate family. What stung wasn't just the exclusion, it was the calculation. They had invited everyone else, my siblings, their partners, extended cousins, everyone but me. I dared to set boundaries this year, refused to bail my brother out financially, declined to clean up my sister's wedding debt, and now, silence. I thought that was the end of it, until I remembered the catering. Weeks earlier, Dad had casually asked me to help chip in for Thanksgiving dinner. I hadn't chipped in, I had paid for it, the whole thing, and worse, I had placed the orders, every side dish from maple and pine, every dessert from sweet laurel, paid, in full, under my name. I stared at my phone, every part of me vibrating. They hadn't just left me out, they'd used me, invited the audience, sold the tickets, and tried to leave me behind the curtain, holding the bill. That's when something in me shifted, not out of rage, out of clarity. I made 2 quiet phone calls, one to the butcher, the second to the bakery, polite, professional, both processed cancellations and refunds within minutes. And then I waited. I didn't warn anyone. I didn't announce my decision. I simply stepped back and let the cracks reveal themselves. Thanksgiving Day, 12:17 p.m. My phone buzzed. Dad's name. I let it ring 4 times before answering. "The food never came," he said, panic threading through his voice. Behind him I could hear the murmurs. My mother's raised tone, confusion swelling through the room like smoke. I took a sip of my cider, steady and composed. "Oh," I said lightly, "maybe check with whoever placed the order." "You placed the order," he snapped. I smiled into the silence. "Did I? Huh." I assumed I wasn't needed. There was a beat, one long, stunned second of silence. Then, chaos. My cousin texted me an hour later. "No turkey, no pie. Your sister's boyfriend is hiding in the bathroom. Your mom's locked herself in her room. It's bad." I didn't reply. I didn't gloat. I just stared at my quiet apartment, filled with peace and soft light, and realized something profound. The most powerful revenge is the kind where you never raise your voice, you just remove your presence, and let the absence speak volumes. The aftermath was louder than I expected, not in my world, but theirs. 3 days after Thanksgiving, my phone chimed with a group text from my mother. "We really missed you. Hope we can move past this." No apology, just a blanket statement, a polite rug if you will, ready for sweeping, the kind of message meant to erase rather than repair. I didn't respond. Silence, I'd learned, wasn't weakness, it was power. A few hours later, Aunt Carla called. Her voice was quieter than usual. "A lot of us confronted your parents," she said carefully. "They needed to hear it. But Mom didn't like consequences, she never had." And by the end of the week I could feel the shift, whispers, rumors, a new version of the story floating through the family grapevine, one where I was unstable, over-emotional, that I'd sabotaged Thanksgiving out of spite. It was textbook. Rewrite the story until the villain looks like the one with trembling hands, until the real betrayal becomes a footnote. I kept my head down, said nothing, but I was watching, and I was remembering. It wasn't anger I felt. It was resolve, cold and clean. The story didn't stop at Thanksgiving. It crept toward Christmas like mold under the wallpaper. My cousin Riley sent a warning text. "She's saying you're too fragile to come around the family, that you can't handle conflict." That stung, not because it was true, but because I knew exactly how easily people would believe it. After all, I was the quiet one, the calm one, the fixer. And when a fixer breaks, the world scrambles to blame them. not the mess. I didn't have to be loud to be right, but I did need to be present. So I made a decision. Christmas Eve, I drove to my parents' house, late, not late enough to miss dinner, but late enough to disrupt the show. I stepped inside and silence fell like a guillotine. My mother froze mid-sentence. My father blinked. My sister gripped her wine glass too tightly. "Hey," I said, voice breezy, unbothered. "Merry Christmas." Then I stepped aside. I brought a guest. My grandmother, my mother's mother, stepped into view. The one Mom had cut off years ago. Her arrival was a rupture in my mother's reality. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. Grandma smiled warmly, walking into the house like she had every right to be there, because she did. "It's been years," she said sweetly. "My, what a lovely wreath, dear." My mother stood there, colorless. Grandma's presence was a mirror, reflecting the parts my mother worked so hard to hide. During dinner, she made no effort to keep the tension polite. She poked. She noted, "Is the stuffing store-bought? Tastes very precise." I didn't laugh, but I did smile into my napkin. My presence wasn't revenge. It was a reckoning. Calm, polite, undeniable. Days later, the backlash started. Cousins texting, half curious, half accusatory. "You okay? Heard there was drama. Did you really bring Grandma to stir the pot?" But the one that hit hardest came from Aunt Carla. "She's telling everyone you're having a breakdown, that what you did at Christmas proves it." And that's when I knew. This wasn't about embarrassment. It was about fear. My mother was scared, not of me, but of the story slipping out of her control. So she reached for the same weapon she always did, shame. But this time I wasn't holding it. The moment it truly clicked wasn't loud. It didn't come with yelling or door slams, or dramatic ultimatums. It arrived in the form of a quiet phone call from my grandmother. Her voice was soft, laced with an ache I hadn't expected. "Your mother's been calling around," she said gently, "telling people she's worried about you, that you're not well." I laughed, a bitter disbelieving sound. "You know that's not true, right?" She didn't hesitate. "Melanie, I knew it wasn't true before she even opened her mouth." And just like that, the knot in my chest loosened a little. That night I sat beneath the soft glow of my Christmas tree, the house quiet except for the occasional hum of the heater. I stared at my phone, at the family group chat, then slowly typed out a message. It was short, polite, deceptively simple. "Hey everyone, just wanted to clear up some confusion. I'm doing great. No breakdowns, no drama. It's been an interesting season, but I'm genuinely in a good place. Wishing you all a happy new year." I sent it and put my phone down. A digital scalpel, clean, precise, undeniable. Let them spin. And yet, something unexpected happened. My brother Ethan, who'd been conspicuously silent through all of this, texted me just after midnight. "Hey, can we talk?" My fingers hovered over the screen for a moment, heart racing. We hadn't spoken since early fall. I called him, immediately. No need for more distance. His voice came through the line unsure, hesitant. "Look, I don't agree with what Mom did." I didn't say anything. I let him sit in the silence. He continued, quieter. "I think she's really good at twisting things." Thanksgiving felt weird, but Christmas, that's when it all made sense. I nodded, though he couldn't see it. "You don't think I'm crazy?" There was a pause, then not even close. That cracked something open in me. Not anger, not pain, but relief. I hadn't realized how deeply I needed someone to see it, to say it out loud. It meant more than he knew. "I'm not saying I handled it right," he added, "but I didn't know how to stand up to her." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Yeah, I get it." And I did. I had spent decades understanding everyone's side, everyone's hurt but mine. A few days passed, then came the call. Her voice, when I answered, was cool and sharp. "We need to talk, in person." I let the silence linger. "About what?" I asked. Even though I already knew. "Your little stunt humiliated me," she snapped. There it was, not pain, not introspection, just pride, bleeding and desperate. "Sunday dinner, 6 p.m. Your father and I expect you here." She hung up, before I could answer. I wasn't sure if I'd go until Aunt Carla called. "Just hear them out," she urged. "You don't have to forgive them, but make them say it. To your face." So I went. I arrived early evening, nerves tucked neatly beneath a layer of resolve. The tension in the house was a living thing, thick coiled. My dad stood by the dining table like a soldier waiting for orders. My mom sat at the head of the table like she always did, chin lifted, eyes sharp. My sister scrolled her phone. Ethan sat stiff, clearly anxious. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" my mother demanded. I tilted my head. Which part are you mad about? Canceling the turkey, bringing grandma to Christmas, or people no longer believing your story? Her eyes flared. You're so dramatic, she hissed, as if that one word could shrink everything I had endured into a petty tantrum. My father stepped in then, his voice tense, controlled. Your mother is hurt, and all you've done is make her look bad. I didn't flinch. She made herself look bad. I just stopped covering for her. His lips pressed into a tight line. For years I had protected their image, their perfect family illusion, but I was done being their shield. My silence had protected them far more than it had ever protected me. Mom's face went red. The truth? She spat. You mean your version of it? Her voice rose. Because in my version you abandoned your family, refused to let go of the past, and took revenge over a simple misunderstanding. I stayed calm. Misunderstanding. You uninvited me, you let me pay for the meal, and then pretended I didn't exist. Her eyes darted to my father. We never meant to exclude you. She said it with such false sincerity that I almost laughed. We just thought it would be easier, she added. Less tension. And then you told people I was unstable, I said, quiet but sharp. You tried to destroy my credibility to avoid accountability. You embarrassed me publicly, and now you want sympathy because it didn't work. That landed. I saw it in the stiff set of her jaw, in the way she glanced around the room for someone to come to her rescue. But no one moved. Ethan cleared his throat. Mom, he said softly, but firmly, you did exclude her. You told people she wasn't coming. You let her pay for everything. Her head snapped toward him. Oh, don't you start to. He didn't back down. You crossed the line, he said, his voice strong. You always do when you feel exposed. For the first time Dad's posture shifted. We should have handled it differently, he said, almost a whisper. My mother turned to him, stunned. What does that mean? He hesitated. Maybe she has a point. The room fell into a strange, still quiet. My mother blinked, like she couldn't comprehend that she was no longer winning the narrative. My sister finally looked up from her phone. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Wow, she muttered. But I wasn't done. You didn't just leave me out, I said. You erased me. You lied about me. You built a story where I was the villain so you could stay the hero, and you did it without thinking about what that would cost me. My mom stared at me, breathing shallow, and then, maybe for the first time in her life, she told the truth. Because I was embarrassed, she said. Just like that, it slipped out. The confession, the admission. I stood there stunned. She hadn't even realized it, until she spoke the words. The silence that followed was like a funeral, for the illusion, for the lies, for the version of our family we had all pretended to live inside. I looked around the room, and something inside me settled, not in anger, but in finality. I stood up. I'm done, I said, steady and quiet. I don't need an apology. I don't think you know how to give one, but I do need you to understand. I'm done. My mom's eyes widened. Wait, no, you don't get to walk away like this. I shook my head slowly. You did this, and now you have to live in it. I turned to my father, hoping for something, a sliver of ownership, a flicker of remorse, but all I saw was a man deflating beneath the weight of choices he hadn't made, but quietly allowed. I appreciate that you tried, I told him, voice even, but you let it happen, and that hurt too. His shoulders slumped. He didn't argue, didn't defend, just looked down at his clasped hands like a child caught in a lie he didn't even understand, and in that moment, I realized something devastating. Silence isn't always neutral, sometimes it's just cowardice dressed up as peace. I turned to my sister. She hadn't said much. Her silence over the years had been a mirror of Dad's, passive but complicit. Her gaze flicked up to meet mine. Her eyes were glassy. I should have said something sooner, she said, voice barely above a whisper. I saw it happening. I just didn't want to be part of the fallout. Ethan gave a slow, quiet nod beside her. Me too. It didn't fix anything, but it mattered. Not because I needed their validation, but because it meant the gaslight was out, and I wasn't alone in the dark anymore. In the weeks that followed, I created distance, not out of spite, but necessity. My mother sent vague, shallow texts, the kind of messages that scream apology without ever using the word. Can we move past this? Let's not drag this out. I left every message on read. My boundary wasn't cruel, it was clean. Aunt Carla kept checking in, grounding me with her quiet support. Grandma sent a handwritten letter, full of warmth, fierce love, and pride. You didn't just protect yourself, she wrote. You protected the truth. that matters. I tucked the note into a drawer like armor. But the real shift came unexpectedly. One evening in January, Ethan texted me again. Coffee? I hesitated, then agreed. We met at a small cafe in West Asheville, tucked between a bookstore and a consignment shop. He looked different, not in appearance, but in posture. Less like someone defending a system, more like someone quietly breaking free of it. Over lattes, we talked for hours, about childhood, about loyalty, about silence. I think I spent so long trying to keep the peace, he said. I didn't realize how much damage that peace was costing you. I nodded slowly. I get it, I really do. That moment was the real healing, not because he suddenly became a perfect brother, but because he saw me, not the version fed to him. Me. For years I'd accepted my role as the scapegoat, the difficult one, the too sensitive sister who made everything harder, but now I saw that role for what it really was, a projection, a shadow cast by a mother too afraid to face her own reflection. I had stepped out of that shadow, and in doing so I gave others the courage to look into the light. Because here's the thing. No one tells you, sometimes healing doesn't look like reconciliation, it looks like recognition. Sometimes the greatest revenge is not watching them fall apart, it's watching yourself come together. Stronger, sharper, whole. And if you've ever felt the weight of being the one who dared to speak truth into a family built on illusion, I see you. I was you, and I promise you this, peace isn't found at every table. Sometimes it's in the space you carve out for yourself, where no one questions your worth. The next family gathering happened without me. I didn't ask for details, but they trickled in anyway, through cousins, through Facebook photos, through silence that was suddenly filled with awkward hope you're well messages, from people who'd once watched me disappear and said nothing. I didn't respond, not because I was angry anymore, but because I was free. There's a difference between shutting someone out and choosing not to reopen a door they slammed on you first. I had stopped waiting for validation in rooms that had already decided I was inconvenient. My mother tried again in April. We're planning a family brunch, she wrote. It would mean a lot if you came. I stared at the message for a long time, not because I was tempted, but because it was so perfectly her, disguising control as an invitation, as if the wound was mutual, as if brunch could rebuild what she'd tried so hard to dismantle. I didn't respond, not because I wanted her to feel ignored, but because for the first time in my life, I no longer felt responsible for managing her disappointment. I kept building my life, in quiet, solid ways. I joined a book club, started volunteering at a local animal shelter, repainted my kitchen the softest green I could find. I began choosing softness where I once braced for impact, and slowly the grip of my family's story over mine loosened. People began seeing me differently, not as difficult or dramatic, but as someone who had survived and chosen growth over bitterness. I wasn't trying to prove anything anymore, I was just living, and it turns out, that's its own kind of resistance. One day in late May, I ran into a second cousin I hadn't seen since Christmas. She hesitated, then said, "I'm sorry about everything that happened. I think a lot of us didn't know what was really going on." I smiled gently. "It's okay, I'm not angry," and I meant it. I wasn't angry, I was awake. Once you've seen the truth behind a family's curated image, you can't unsee it, but you also don't have to burn it all down. Sometimes you just step away, quietly, completely, with your dignity intact. There's power in the empty chair, the one they set a place for too late, the one that reminds them you're no longer performing your role. That's not bitterness, that's clarity, that's healing, that's refusing to keep earning love that should have been freely given. And if you've ever found yourself standing alone in the middle of a family storm, wondering if you were the problem, hear me now, you're not. You're the mirror, you're the boundary, you're the one who finally said enough. So here's my final truth. I don't need revenge. I don't need apologies that only serve the speaker. I have peace now, the real kind, the kind that doesn't hinge on someone else's approval. And that's what I wish for you too. If you're still sitting at a table where your worth is conditional, your story is twisted, or your boundaries are punished, you don't have to flip the table. You can just stand up and walk away. If this story spoke to your soul, share your truth in the comments. You're not alone, and you never were.